Hello, everybody. My name is Christopher Saunders, and this is the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. We talk all things talents in Connecticut, and this is a special episode of the top performance of the week, the previous week in week 2 of high school football. And I'm pleased to have on one of two of the top performers, Sean Clinkscales, who ran for over 169 yards, 3 touchdowns. It was 3 for 4 on point afters, PAs. And Sean, that performance helps you beat Naugatuck, which was in the Iron Division for people who may not know. And Sean also plays for the Torrington Raiders. Sean, thanks so much for being able to come on, man.
Thank you for having me.
I think obviously a lot of people who may, outside the NVL may not know kind of the rivalry between Naugatuck and Torrington. And I don't want to say bad blood, but there's almost like kind of like a big brother, little brother kind of thing when you think about some years Naugatuck was obviously the better team, other years Torrington. You guys seem to always kind of switch off as far as the battles.
Yeah, and I always think it's always a pretty even match usually, and it's just one of those things that goes back really far. So it's kind of like a right away to have that win under your belt when you go into the game.
Now, as far as when you look at, because obviously, when you're a freshman in Torrington, I don't know if Coach Gaetan or anybody ever talks about kind of, the Naugatucks, the Ansonias, as far as, I'm sure you may even know about those teams, as you go into high school. But did you know, as far as kind of the series, as far as Naugatuck had 76 wins, I think Torrington had like 38 or 48 as far as between the two. Did you even know about that?
No, I didn't know about that. My friend told me today, though, that it's been since 1984 that Torrington beat Naugatuck 2 years in a row.
Yep.
So
he's right. Exactly. It's been since 1982 to 1984 that Torrington's won back-to-back games against Naugatuck. For people who may have forgotten, Torrington defeated Naugatuck back in 2019 when Naugatuck was up in Torrington. And those are games, man, where especially when Naugatuck goes up to Torrington, it's always weird, regardless of the records. It's always a tough matchup there.
Yeah, we always come ready when we're at home. The fans get us going. We have a good student section, and just seeing everyone lined up around the gate, we get going for those games.
Yeah, man. The energy, on Friday was awesome. I felt it up in the broadcast booth. I can only imagine the players, the fans. The players I saw throughout the game. And we'll get into that in a little bit. Obviously, why you're here, your performance. I just want to, before we talk about the game, I kind of want to talk about yourself a little bit. When you were coming up through playing football, when did you start playing football?
I started playing football in second grade.
Okay. Now, was that always something you were, was football kind of like, it was like stuck on you, or did you play other sports?
I played pretty much every sport. I played soccer, basketball, baseball, football, and then I do track now. But football is just like the one sport that I always fell in love with, and I'm stuck with all through these years.
So what made you, what attracted you to the game of football where you just couldn't let go of it?
I just always grew up watching football because my family's from the South, and that's just the way of life down there. So I always grew up watching it. So when I started playing it, I just fell in love with it. Always watching the big guys on Sundays. So it's just one of the things that I just love doing. I can't really put on a finger why I like it, but it's just one of my favorite things.
Whereabouts from the South is your family from?
They're from Alabama.
Oh, well, that's why.
Yeah.
Hoover, you might be a little bit too young for this, but 2-a-day with Hoover and all that. That was the big high school back then. I remember it was when I was in high school, 7th, 8th grade high school. There was a series and it tracked a high school football program. Hoover was, and I think they still are, one of the perennial high school football programs in the entire country. So I could see why football was attractive to you at such a young age.
Yeah.
Now, were you born in Alabama or were you born here in the States, in Connecticut?
I was born in New Hampshire, but I moved to Connecticut when I was pretty young.
Okay.
I was like 1, I think.
So your family started in Alabama. How'd you end up in New Hampshire?
My dad's job. My dad's job moved him all over the place.
What does he do, if you don't mind me asking?
He's a manager of a company called Air Gas.
Okay, so that'll do it. I mean, as far as you kind of going from place to place. So
Yeah.
you went from New Hampshire to then Connecticut. I mean, as when you were, as far as going from kind of state to state, was it hard for you to get adjusted, or was it something where it just you got used to it?
Well, I mean, I've always been in Connecticut, really. I mean, I moved from New Hampshire to Connecticut when I was like 1, so I don't really know anything different, really.
All right. See, I thought you moved from New Hampshire to Connecticut, like, middle age, like 5, 6, 7, but okay, that makes sense. So when you moved to Connecticut and then obviously in Torrington, um, what was the difference as far as when you were, you know, because obviously I know you didn't play football in Alabama or New Hampshire, but I'm sure you have. I mean, I don't know if you keep in contact with anybody down there, but is there any sort of difference that maybe you may know from when you were younger playing football and then down there as well?
It's just a lot bigger. There's a lot more funding behind things.
Mm-hmm.
Like my dad's old high school, they're not any better or any bigger than the Torrington High School, but like they just have like a flat screen TV at their on their field. It's just mainly money and funding and everything. That's the only difference.
Okay, interesting. I did not know that. All right. So also just looking at yourself, man, because I asked Coach Gayton on Thursday, kind of coming through the ranks leading up to Torrington, kind of what offense is ran with Pee Wee and all that. And he said the single wing, because obviously that's what Torrington runs. So did you, as you came through the age groups, were you a player that was on the offensive side mainly running the single wing, or were you kind of playing various positions?
All through youth football, I was playing both ways usually.
Okay.
So I was playing the 3-back on offense and I was playing outside linebacker on defense.
Did you like doing that, playing both sides? I'm sure you did.
Yeah, I loved it.
Well, like, I'm sure you loved it because obviously you were playing, but was it also too that you were able to kind of see both sides of the ball and kind of, because you being able to learn the defensive side, you could bring that to the offensive side because now you're thinking offensively, okay, if I was going up against myself, how would I execute this play? I mean, did you ever think about that as you were kind of growing up?
Yeah, I thought about it. And then especially when you were on defense and there was just a running back running all over you guys, you could see like if he did a different move or if he just ran a certain way that worked and you could like try to implement it into your own game.
Now, be honest with me, before you got to high school, how were you in the game of football? Were you a stud? Were you kind of just average? Be honest with me.
I was pretty average on offense, but I would say I'm above average on defense going up, like in 8th grade.
So then as you entered high school and Coach Gayton saw you, I mean, did you make varsity your freshman year or what was it?
I was on special teams my freshman year. That's the only varsity time I got.
Now, do you think that that was good that you kind of just, I mean, did you feel like you were ready to play at the varsity level your freshman year, or do you think it was better that you were on special teams and you kind of got your feet wet and a true understanding of the game of football at the varsity level at Torrington?
I don't think I was size wise, I wasn't ready. So it was good that I was playing JV that like my freshman year, but it was good to get a little bit of varsity experience on special teams just to see what it's all about.
And as you were finishing, or going through your freshman year, man, what was some of the, I don't want to say feedback because I'm sure you got a lot from coaches and your dad and friends and such, but what was your takeaway or takeaways that you were able to have that you were able to use in the off season to kind of train yourself and better prepare yourself for the following season?
That I needed to hit some weights, just get a little bit more mass on me, get a little faster, just the physical attributes. That's about it.
Now, was that difficult for you to be able to put on weight, or was it something where you just had to eat more and just make sure that you were training at the proper way?
It was just trained the proper way. I really like lifting. It's one of like my hobbies I do. So I mean, it wasn't really hard. It was just I had to know how to do the right way because I didn't want to be like a bodybuilder and train like that. So I needed to do some athletic training involved.
But if football, however football takes you, you can always do bodybuilding because it seems like you love to hit the weight room, as you said.
Yeah. I'd probably prefer powerlifting. That's more fun, lifting all the heavy weights.
Oh, like picking up cars like they show on ESPN, those massive dudes like that.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, the way I saw you on Friday, and we'll get into that in just a second. You could do whatever you want because you were bulldozing people left and right. Hence why you had 3 touchdowns and 169 yards. Now, just looking at the kind of, because I mentioned this on the air because in talking with Coach Gaetan, he was telling me how, because I asked him, where is your team? Like, where do you feel like they are right now? And he felt like because of the youth, the inexperience, and just, maybe also too is because of the week of practice. He felt like you guys were going into your game scrimmage in the preseason, just as far as being ready to play, consistency. But then when I saw you guys on Friday, the following day, I said to myself and on the air, this team looks like they've been playing 5, 6, 7 games together 4 years from freshman to senior year. Just everything was working flawlessly. So like what was so different between a bad week of practice and then that Friday? Was there anything?
Um, I mean, it could have just been the rivalry, like the energy of the game and everything, and how we need to have the intensity. And it all just kind of clicked, I think. But our offense, I think it's 9 out of our 11 starters on our offense all played together and all through youth football. So we all have the same chemistry all through youth football. And we got a little split up during high school, but now we're all back together. So I think it's all there. I think it finally clicked. I'm hoping it clicked so that next week we're all ready to go.
Now, see, I wish that was something that Gaetan, or if I could have talked to one of you guys after practice, I would have loved to have known that. I did not know that 9 of the 11 players you said on offense played together since you guys were young. And I mean, that's why Ansonia, as you know, is so consistent because they run the same system, the same players. A majority of them end up going to Ansonia. And it's like you as far as the offensive line, just speaking of them for a second, it's like they're all thinking the same thing. And I think that's the chemistry part, like you said, is so huge, especially in a game that big last Friday against Naugatuck.
Yeah. And our youth team was really good going on. And I mean, our line changed positions a little bit, but we all played together. So we all know how we could play and we all know how to hold each other accountable. So I think going forward throughout the season, it's going to help us a lot.
And speaking of the fact of being together as long as you guys were leading up to high school and then being back together and all that, like I almost feel like there wasn't a more important time to have that camaraderie, that closeness than when last season was lost because of COVID. And it's a shame that the seniors could not play in their final games and such. And it sucks. I mean, let's be frank, it sucked. And I'm sure you guys felt the same way. Do you think, even though as far as the varsity experience is young, do you think the fact that you guys are so close that kind of helped you guys get through a very, dark, tough, excruciating situation as far as losing last year because of COVID?
Oh, I'm for sure that definitely helped us because even during COVID, after our season got canceled, we all people were going to lift together, people were hitting the field together, just trying to get ready for our senior season, just because we only had one more shot to get to where we want to be. So people were just trying to put in the work together and get in as much workouts and running field work and all that stuff that we could get in.
And with that lost season, I know in conversations I've had with various players in all sports, many of them told me that because of the lost season, they said there was one of two things they could have done. They either could have stepped back, cried, and moped, not have gotten better as a player, and would have affected them if they went on to play, if they had a chance to play senior year, which now was what we're seeing as a senior year, or if they went to play in college. Or they took the other option, which was, all right, lost the season. Let's figure out, what do I need to do? Go to the weight room or work on my skills, whatever it was. Did you use the time wisely to be able to figure out what you could work on, since you had more time than you usually did because of the lost season?
Yeah, I did. I didn't. So early quarantine, when everything was still new, all I did was run and lift and all that stuff because I didn't have anything else to do. And you can only play so many video games until it gets all boring. So I would lift, I would run, I would go to the field with some of my teammates, and then it just kept going until until we started our summer practices going into, I guess, my junior season before the season got canceled. So we were all getting ready, and I think if we had a season our junior year, we would have been really good too.
Yeah, just thinking of the Torrington squad, because of, broadcasting for WAPJ when I could, and then broadcasting for ATR, which covers all of Waterbury. I did quite a few of your games in 2019, and just thinking that, yeah, there were some ups, there were downs like any season, but I just felt like 2020 was going to be that year for you guys to I felt like you guys were going to pop that year because of the talent that you had coming back and with all the experience that you guys would have gotten. Obviously, that didn't happen, but in some ways, looking at what you guys have done between Holy Cross, even though it wasn't a victory, it was like a step for you guys. And then Naugatuck felt like it was an even bigger step, but one that you guys were able to not just be prepared for, but you guys were ready to be able to, compete against a very good foe in the Greyhounds.
Yeah, I mean, going into week one, we didn't even feel like we lost. I mean, the scoreboard said we lost, but we were just excited to be playing football again. And I mean, Holy Cross is a very good team. You got to give it to them. So we felt like we did good and we handled our own, especially only having 2 weeks before that to practice. So, and then going into week two against Naugatuck, we already had high standards against Holy Cross. So I think we were prepared that way, even though we did have a bad week of practice and all that stuff.
Now, leading up to that Holy Cross game, weren't you guys in quarantine as well?
Yeah, we were in quarantine, so we missed 2 scrimmages. So we only had 1 scrimmage in preseason, and then we had 2 weeks until Holy Cross.
And that's huge, because for a team, even though the closeness that you guys have had is great, you still need to have game reps. You still need to be able to have game speed. And not having that, it's almost like, okay, out of quarantine, all right to the game. It's like you guys didn't have a lot of time to be able to work on the technique part, especially running, as far as the offensive side, running the single wing. It's not something where you can just wake up and do it. You need the reps to be able to go through, and also just the calls as well, right?
Yeah, especially with the single wing, there's a lot of like blocking schemes that you have to learn. And when you only have half your team available to practice and most of them aren't even starters, like you can't really practice the blocking as well. And that's a really important part of our offense.
Now, coming into this season, did you know that you were going to be one of the key players, along with, for people who may have not seen a Torrington game yet, there's Semenich and Rosado, along with yourself. It's kind of like I said in the air, the Earth, Wind, and Fire, the 3 key guys as far as the guys who are going to touch the ball the most. Did you know that you were going to be one of those players?
I kind of had a feeling I was, because I would have conversations with Coach Rod, and we would just be talking about what he wants my roles to be on the team are and everything, and how he wanted me to be a leader. So I kind of assumed I'd be one of the key players, but I mean, it could all change depending on how people play, because we haven't had a season in 2 years. So there could have been anybody could have stepped up.
But did you know, kind of like, just speaking for yourself, did you feel like you were ready to kind of take that step as far as being the leader, being somebody that the younger players could kind of look to as, because like I said, the offense was going to be, at least to start, sounded like you, Semenich, Rosado. You guys were going to be the key ones thus far.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question at first. Yeah, I've thought that I was ready because we've all been running this offense for so long that I feel like people could ask us questions, look up to us to see how we do it, and then we're all experienced players that have been there before, so we all kind of know what we're doing.
And with us speaking about the single wing, I mean, you and I know what it is, but people who will watch this may not fully, because the game on Friday was the battle of the wings. You had the wing T versus the single wing, and the single wing won, and that was ran by you guys, the Torrington Raiders. Try to, if I'm sure you're going to explain it very, very eloquently. If someone was to ask you, what's the single wing? Your answer would be?
The single wing, it's a run heavy offense that involves an unbalanced line, and each play pretty much has a lot of lead blockers, depending on which hole it goes through.
And also, too, just looking at it from a broadcasting point of view, there's a lot of, I don't want to say motion, but there's a lot of direction where players can go in multiple ways, depending on where the call is. Am I right?
Oh yeah. We have misdirection in the backfield that kind of tries to confuse the linebackers and where to go, and just different people are pulling. So this is, yeah.
I would think though too, doesn't it also kind of take like a team effort as well? Because obviously there's you and two other players, as I mentioned, 7-inch and Rosado. So whoever is not getting the two players, whoever is not getting the ball, you guys now have to become the blockers. So it almost seems like it's like a team effort. So it's like, okay, one person has the ball, the other 10 now have to do their job and their assignments and blocking and such.
Yeah, the way this offense is like set up, if you don't hit your block like perfectly, for the most part, you're not going to get many yards. But if you do hit your blocks the way like it's written up to be, you're going to get 5, 10, 15 yards every run.
And that's what you guys did against Naugatuck. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times, even if you were going up the middle behind your center or left or right guard, it looked like you were only going to get 3, but then your legs kept churning and you were getting 5 and 8. I mean, it seemed like even in the beginning of the game, when you guys were not getting those kind of chunk yards to start, it just seemed like to me that you guys were just wearing down Naugatuck, hitting them as hard as you could, keeping it, keeping the pressure on them. And then as we saw in the second half, those 2-3 yard runs were becoming 8, 9, 10 because they were just tired of getting hit.
Yeah, it could really wear down a team, especially once you start getting 3 yards, 3 yards, and then you bring it up to 5, 5, 5. And as the more you just bring up the yards, it's just going to bring down the other team's morale, basically. And they aren't going to have as much momentum in their favor. And it's just going to bring them down. And then they're going to be tired on top of that. So it's a very, it builds, it's a building offense throughout the game.
At what point during the game did you guys feel like, you know what, I think, I don't want to say you guys were confident as far as to say like, oh, this game is ours? Because obviously, I mean, it came down, it was 27-19. I mean, the game wasn't, I mean, it looked like it was over at one point. It was 27-11, but then Naugatuck had a late touchdown late in the fourth quarter. When did you personally feel like, you know what, this game looks like it's going our way? We got to keep this positive momentum going. We can't stop.
Personally, for me, it was the second touchdown. I feel like that's when it all like, I felt like we had all the momentum and that we were going to start pulling away from them a little bit, because I believe it was 14-3 when we got the second touchdown. So I feel like it's a 2-score game. I just felt confident in the lead.
And you speak too about the fact that the single wing, it's very methodical. It for people who don't like running, teams who run the football, it could be, just in their eyes, not mine, because I love teams that run the football. It could seem kind of boring because it's just, okay, handoff, run. There isn't really a lot of throwing. But a 14-3 score, and I said this on the broadcast too, 14-3 is almost like 20-3, because if you're also like you guys did, you were converting on third down, fourth down, And the more possessions and time that you burnt off that clock, because you guys were not in a rush, the less time the opposing team had, which then put them behind the 8 ball even more.
Yeah, the single wing, it's just, I can see why teams don't like defending it. And well, our whole scheme going into the third quarter was that we want to have a drive that took up the whole quarter, which it didn't happen. But that was our goal. We were trying to get a drive to go the whole quarter, because that's what we did last year against Holy Cross. I think we had a drive in the second half that went about 9 minutes all the way down the field. So, and because we were just trying to keep them away from the ball because we already had the lead.
I mean, just, trying to remember some of the numbers, and there was a lot of stats that were favoring you guys, even going into the fourth quarter. At the end of the game, there was a couple stats I thought were really, really interesting. In the second quarter, you held Naugatuck to 5 offensive plays. You ran 23 more plays than Naugatuck did the entire game. Obviously, the time of possession was in favor of you guys. Just thinking of all of that and just saying it out loud, it's like, and then you force Naugatuck two turnovers. You guys didn't have any. That kind of stuff puts you guys at an even more favorable position, where as long as you guys just stick to what your game plan was, which you did, you guys would end up, with a win, as you guys did.
Yeah, those turnovers were really key, I feel like, in that, because they were 2 pretty early ones when the momentum could have gone in either way. So it was, one of them was on a kickoff, the second kickoff after a penalty. So it was like a perfect timing for everything, and it just kept the ball rolling for us.
Now, looking at yourself, man, because obviously you're on here because of your performance. When did you, because I've heard many, many stories from running backs where they felt like, oh, it was the third time I touched the ball, where I just felt like I was in a groove. Or it was after the first touchdown where maybe my legs were finally starting to get stronger. Like some running backs get stronger as the game goes on. When did you feel like, you know what, this is my game? Like, this is a game where I feel like I can do something pretty good, which you did better than pretty good, man.
I feel like it was after this, going into the third quarter, because one of our coaches pulled me aside and told me just to barrel into the hole, just go full speed and stop dancing around. I was watching film in the Holy Cross game, and I realized I was dancing around a little bit. So that was my goal going into this game, just to hit it hard, but I kept doing it in the first half. So my coach pointed it out to me. And then after that, when I started just getting like 5 yards to carry, that's when I'm like, all right, I got someone going for me. And when we started converting on the 4th downs and the 3rd downs, I'm like, all right, it's getting fun.
And don't forget too, it was also because of the jerseys. Let's be real. It was the white jerseys, right?
Yes, the white jerseys, the white on white.
Hey, it's good luck. Don't break it. It's good luck now. You got to keep it going.
We should wear them for home now.
Hey, you know what? Ask Coach Gaetan. I'm sure he'll say yeah, right? He'll say yes.
Probably.
But Sean, it was great to be able to have you on. I do have one more question for you really quick. The kicking, was not expecting because I asked Coach Gaetan as far as special teams, and he really didn't give me anybody as far as kicking. So I was like, okay, because I went into the broadcast saying, all right, there's going to be a lot of 2-point conversion, 2-point attempts. And then I saw Torrington after the first touchdown, and I saw you kicking, and I was like, wait, I thought this was going to be a 2-point attempt. And then I saw you kick it, and I was like, oh, that actually didn't look too bad. And then you did it again. And then I think you had it blocked, wasn't your fault. And then the 4th time you made it, you were 3 or 4 for PAs. I mean, I think you brought your soccer leg out, right?
There's a funny story actually behind that. So I didn't kick week 1, and then going into week 2, my coach, my special teams coach, Coach Rusty, he told me at lunch that I'm gonna get my tryout for kicker today, and I'm like, I don't know how to kick. And our athletic director, who used to kick in high school and college, he taught me how to kick on Tuesday. And so I kicked twice during the week, and then I had the game on Friday.
So very low practice time, just saying, all right, good luck, go get it.
Pretty much.
But see, like that goes back to the fact that you played so many sports, man, at a young age, and the fact that you have a very high football IQ. I'm sure you picked up on things pretty quick. I mean, again, it's not, it doesn't take rocket science to kick a football, especially if you've been playing the sport long enough. But for you to be able to pick up on it, I think that's pretty cool, man. I mean, that says something about you being able to pick up on that in a matter of 2 days, 3 days.
Yeah, it's just I wasn't really confident at first. I was shanking them until the athletic director, Coach McKenna, he just basically was being old school coach on me and was got me straight on it. So I was kicking them down the middle. I can't kick on the hash yet, but
Hey, whatever you were doing against Naugatuck as far as running the football and kicking, man, it was flawless. You guys played well. Congratulations to Torrington for being able to get back-to-back wins for the first time since 1982 to 1984 against Naugatuck. And Sean, it was great to be able to have you on and talk about your performance. And I wish you guys nothing but the best of luck the rest of this season.
thank you.
That'll wrap things up here in the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. MRCT stands for Connecticut Talent. I'm on a journey to find them all. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and be well.